Well, I think she went as far as any British Prime Minister could with the proposal that she made at Salzburg. And no one could have gone further. She may have gone too far. No one could have gone further to accommodate what the EU was asking for. And if any other country had been offering this, if Canada or Japan or any other nation had said, we're going to accept all of your standards unilaterally, match your environmental laws and pay you and so on, they'd have grabbed it. And you've got to wonder whether there is any interest in striking a deal at all.
I've got to ask also about the Northern Irish backstop. That seems to be a really contentious issue for both sides, trying to find an agreement on that. Is there any way, and from the British perspective, it's about the permanence of this, is there any way, do you think, that this can be fudged in the sense that legal language can give the Commission the feeling of permanence that it wants to make it a workable insurance policy, but the British government can go back to Parliament and say, don't worry, this is essentially a temporary measure?
Well, that's been the approach so far, and no, it hasn't worked. The problem is not with the terms of the backstop or the time limit. The problem is with the fact of having one. You can't conduct negotiations on the basis that one side has guaranteed in advance that if there is no deal, it will make painful concessions in order to accept an outcome that the other side regards as perfectly okay. I mean, the moment you accept that, it stops being a backstop and becomes a frontal stop. Why would there be any further talks? And so I just don't see how this deal can go through if it contains that kind of unilateral concession.
You talk about permanence there. What about the idea of a UK-wide customs union, the so-called backstop to a backstop? That's something you very publicly said you're against. A lot of other members of your party are not fans of this idea. Again, how do you sell this to not only the Parliament but also the British public, based on the fact that Theresa May has repeatedly said Brexit means Brexit and Brexit means leaving the customs union?
Yeah, I mean, staying in the customs union wouldn't just mean no Brexit. It would be something much worse than that. It would be something much worse than either staying or leaving. Because if you're in the customs union, basically you're in the EU's trade and tariff regime. What that means is you're giving Brussels 100% control of your trade policy with 0% input. You're saying that the UK home market, the fifth biggest in the world, would be offered to EU trade negotiators as a sort of bauble to dangle in their talks with Japanese or American or whoever else, wholly for the benefit of the 27, with no benefits to the UK. Now, whether you voted Remain or Leave, that is surely the worst of all worlds, and it is extraordinary that we're even contemplating this.
So how does the British government maintain leverage in the current negotiations, in your view, and how do they maintain leverage going into trade negotiations after March 29th?
I think we need to drop our sunk costs stubbornness. I think we need to reset and do something different. One option would be to just offer a comprehensive free trade agreement and offer the technical solutions that will allow a border in Ireland to be invisible. Another would be to go for something along the lines of EFTA. Another, if the EU really doesn't want to play ball, would be simply to say, well, OK, let's put trade to one side for the moment and let's talk about just doing those minimal things that all neighbouring countries do, getting those deals that you get even with an unfriendly country like Russia on, aviation, police cooperation and so on. But pushing ahead with this idea that could leave us in a customs union while non-members, that really would be the worst conceivable outcome. And there's no chance of it getting through Parliament, and rightly so. I mean, it would be better, any other option would be better than this. Norway, Canada, Switzerland, risking a second referendum, no deal, they would all be better than unilateral membership of a customs union.
One final question for you. You mentioned there getting this through Parliament. That's, of course, back in Westminster. I don't want to add complexity to what is already a hideously difficult subject, but is there a chance, is there any word you get from your fellow MEPs that the Parliament here in Brussels will have issues with any of the deals that might be negotiated?
They will have issues and they'll beat their chests and then they'll do as they're told by their national leaders. They have always done so without exception all the time that I've been here, which is 19 years. And the reason is that in almost every country, the party leaders pretty much handpick who gets to stand next time. So if they want to be on the list next summer and the treaty is coming before them at the beginning of next year, difficult to see them defying their party leaders and turning them into liars after a deal had been struck.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.